Hey, Young and the Restless fans. We have got some absolutely juicy spoilers for the week of June 8th, and you're going to want to sit down for this one because there is a lot happening in Genoa City right now. We're talking about Nikki Newman facing a health scare that is genuinely scary, Matt Clark cooking up trouble for a brand new target, the Shadow Room officially opening its doors in Genoa City, and finally, Shamar Moore is coming back to Y&R, and fans have been waiting on this for way too long. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we have got your full Young and the Restless spoilers breakdown for the week of June 8th through the 12th. But before we get into everything that is coming, if you are not already following us, please hit that subscribe button right now because we are dropping spoilers, predictions, and tea constantly, and you do not want to fall behind. We have also got several major Genoa City characters heading out of town for that Beyond the Gates crossover event, and we will break all of that down too. There is genuinely a lot to unpack this week, so let's just get right into it. Okay, so let's start with Matt Clark and Victor Newman because this thread is moving fast, and it is going in a very interesting direction. So as we wrap up this current week, we get a really significant scene where Matt sits down with Victor and tells him that his memories have been coming back. And what is interesting about the way this is framed is that Matt says he can remember all of the terrible things he did. He has full access to those memories now, but what he cannot remember is why he did them. The motivation, the reasoning, whatever internal logic was driving him at the time, that part is still a blank. And Victor, being Victor, is not exactly moved to tears by this confession. Victor looks at Matt and essentially sees one of two things. Either this man is a liar running a very sophisticated con, or he has some kind of serious mental disorder that makes him genuinely dangerous regardless of his current intentions. Neither option puts Victor at ease. So, what does Victor do? He tells Nick to focus on his own recovery and step back, while Victor personally keeps Matt close and starts quietly testing him to see just how real this supposed transformation actually is. And here is the fascinating thing about Victor's position. He is not interested in redemption for its own sake. Victor Newman does not do charity. What Victor is actually thinking is that if Matt is genuinely repentant and genuinely wants to make things right, then the Newman family might be able to use that. A remorseful Matt Clark with a desire to prove himself is potentially a very useful tool. So Victor is already thinking strategically about how to leverage this situation, which is so completely on brand for the mustache that it almost makes you laugh. He tells Matt directly that he wants to test his sincerity. And Matt, maybe not fully understanding what he is agreeing to, tells Victor he is ready. Meanwhile, there is this separate but connected thread happening where Lily comes to see Victor and is completely blindsided when Victor hands Chancellor back to her. Just gives it to her. And Lily, probably still processing that shock, goes straight to Kane and tells him she wants him to run Chancellor on her behalf. And this is where everything starts to converge, because coming into next week, Y&R Spoilers tell us that Victor's big test for Matt involves doing something to Kane specifically. Victor and Matt talk through a plan and Matt agrees to it, or at least says he does. But this is where it gets really interesting from a character standpoint. Think about the trap Matt is actually in here. Because if he is genuinely a changed man, a truly reformed person with an actual conscience, would he really agree to do something harmful to Kane? Kane, who just donated bone marrow and essentially helped save Malcolm's life. If Matt goes through with whatever Victor is asking, then he fails the test of actually being a new man. He proves that the transformation is either fake or skin deep. But if Matt refuses or sabotages the plan, then he fails Victor's test. He proves to the mustache that his sincerity is conditional and that he cannot be trusted or used. There is genuinely no clean path through this for Matt, and that is either great writing or a trap the character walked into with both eyes open. Either way, it makes for compelling television, and fans are going to be watching this one very closely. The big wrinkle, though, is that Victor only has a limited window to see this play out in person, because he's got to pack up and get on the Newman private jet to Washington, D.C. for the Beyond the Gates crossover. So the test gets set in motion, and then Victor essentially has to leave town and trust that the pieces fall the way he wants them to. Now, speaking of the Beyond the Gates crossover, if you have not been watching BTG, and you have been on the fence about it, this week might actually be the perfect entry point, because the Genoa City presence over there is significant. Victor is going to DC as a keynote speaker at a major political fundraiser, which honestly feels very on brand for Victor Newman. But he is not going alone. Jack Abbott is heading over, and so are Diane Jenkins and Kyle, which is interesting given everything that has been happening with Diane's whereabouts. We will circle back to that. Devin Hamilton is also making the trip, and Abby Newman rounds out the group. Devin has already crossed over to BTG a couple of times, so he knows the terrain. And this time he is heading to DC to have a business conversation with Anita Dupree, an artist who has recorded for his label. The show has done some nice backstory work to connect the worlds. Nikki and Anita are being established as old friends, and Vernon has an existing friendship with Victor that gives the crossover some organic, connective tissue. It does not feel totally forced, which is honestly more than you can say for some of these crossover attempts. If you want to catch it, set your DVR for Wednesday through Friday to see your Y&R favorites over on Beyond the Gates. It is genuinely a good show and worth giving a shot if you have not already. But here's the thing, while Victor and the others are in Washington, things back in Genoa City are about to get very serious very quickly. And the person at the center of it is Nikki Newman. So here is what we know. Nikki has been dealing with these migraines for a little while now, and Victoria has been worried. We saw that play out this week. Victoria pushed Nikki to go see a doctor, and Nikki basically waved her off, insisting it was just another multiple sclerosis symptom, nothing to get worked up about. Classic Nikki. She has never been the type to run to a doctor the moment something feels off, especially not when she is already carrying so much emotionally right now given the state of her marriage to Victor. But next week, something happens that changes the equation completely. Nikki suddenly starts experiencing serious vision problems. And when you combine unexplained vision disturbances with the persistent, worsening headaches she has been having, the medical picture gets a lot more concerning very quickly. We are talking about the possibility of a stroke, a blood clot, something happening neurologically that goes well beyond what MS typically causes. This is not a minor warning sign. This is the kind of symptom cluster that gets taken seriously fast. So Nikki finally relents and agrees to go get checked out. And here is where Melody Thomas Scott's own words in a recent interview become really significant, because she teased that things are bad. That is a quote from the actress herself. Things are bad. So what we are looking at is a life-or-death diagnosis for Nikki Newman, and it comes in while Victor is away in Washington. Nikki gets the news, understands that this medical crisis needs to be dealt with immediately, and then faces this agonizing choice about whether or not to tell Victor. And her reasoning for potentially keeping it from him is heartbreaking if you think about it. Nikki does not want Victor coming home out of guilt or obligation. She does not want to be the reason he drops everything and rushes back if what they have is already broken beyond repair. She genuinely believes at this point that their marriage cannot be saved, and she does not want a health crisis to manufacture a reunion that is not real. That is a woman with a complicated, painful kind of pride, and it is going to drive some really emotional scenes. We are also hearing that this diagnosis sends Nikki into some risky behavior, which, given her history with alcohol, is a detail fans are going to want to watch carefully. The writers have clearly set up a very intense arc for Nikki over the coming weeks, and Melody Thomas Scott is going to have a lot to work with. And while we are on the subject of Victor and the Jack situation, Eric Braeden gave an interview recently about the crossover and about Victor's ongoing deep hatred of Jack Abbott, and he said something that actually reframes the whole dynamic in an interesting way. Because most viewers have been looking at the hotel room incident from 2024, the situation where Jack was supposedly trying to help Nikki get into rehab from the perspective of Jack doing a good deed. Jack stepping up. Jack saving Nikki from herself. But Eric Braeden explained that from Victor's internal perspective, what he sees is something completely different. Victor is thoroughly convinced in his bones that Nikki was drunk and Jack was high on pills, and that before Jack overdosed, the two of them were together in that hotel room in a very different way than the official story goes. Victor thinks they were sleeping together. That is what he believes happened. And when you factor that in, Victor's hatred of Jack suddenly makes a certain brutal kind of sense. He is not being irrational by his own internal logic. He genuinely believes his wife was unfaithful with his longtime rival. The rest of the family sees a man who saved Nikki's life. Victor sees something else entirely. And that gap in perception is going to keep driving conflict between Victor and Jack for a long time to come. That was a genuinely illuminating interview, and if you missed it, it is worth seeking out. Okay, let's shift over to something a little lighter because we need to talk about the Genoa City shadow room situation, which is, look, it is a lot. So Noah Newman, apparently undeterred by the fact that his girlfriend Sienna Beale is thoroughly creeped out by the whole concept, has gone ahead and built a replica of the LA shadow room right there in Genoa City. And honestly, the cynical read on this is that the show spent money on that set and was not about to just let it sit unused, so they found a narrative reason to bring it to Genoa City rather than just dropping the location. Whatever the behind-the-scenes logic, the in-story version is that Noah is pushing forward with his vision and hosting an opening night for the Genoa City Shadow Room next week. And the guest list is shaping up to be quite a crowd. Nick and Sharon are both there, and they are being supportive. They think it is going to be great. They are toasting to Noah's success. Holden and Claire are on hand. Holden's mother, Stephanie Simmons, is there as well. You can absolutely expect Audra Charles to show up because there is no way Audra misses something like this. Other Newmans will likely filter through. It should be a big, social, scene-setting kind of episode, and it gives the show a fun new venue to play with going forward, even if the concept itself raises some eyebrows. And now, the moment a lot of fans have genuinely been waiting on, Shamar Moore is back on Young and the Restless next week, and it is about time. Malcolm Winters has been basically a background presence for too long, mostly discussed by other characters while we sat here waiting to actually see him on screen. The bone marrow donation from Kane, Malcolm's transplant procedure, all of it happened off-screen. We were getting third-hand updates from people visiting the hospital. And for a character as beloved as Malcolm, that is genuinely frustrating. Fans wanted to see it. They wanted to be in the room for those moments. So the fact that we are finally getting Malcolm back up and on his feet and present in scenes is a big deal, and the way it happens is actually really sweet. Up at the Overlook Cafe, Stephanie, Holden, and Claire are all hanging out together, just a normal day. And then Malcolm walks up on them out of nowhere and says, "And this is very Malcolm. Could I get some of that?" Just easing back and like he never left. Holden looks stunned. Claire looks genuinely pleased to see him. And Stephanie gives Malcolm a great big hug. It is exactly the kind of warm, character-driven moment that longtime Y&R fans have been waiting for, and it is going to land beautifully. We also need to briefly touch on the Diane Jenkins situation because fans have been asking where she is. Early next week we should get some resolution on that. It looks like Jack's private investigator locates her fairly early in the week, because by midweek Diane and Jack are back together, and they are actually over at the Beyond the Gates crossover smiling and happy, appearing as a united family with Kyle at the political fundraiser in D.C. So whatever was going on with Diane's disappearance gets resolved quickly, and the Abbott family heads to Washington with things at least superficially patched up between them. Whether that lasts when they get back to Genoa City is a whole other question. And finally, Lily and Kane have their own thread running through the week. At the end of this week, we get a scene where Lily talks with Kane about Malcolm's recovery, and the mood is genuinely warm and hopeful. Lily says it is a dream come true, which, given everything they went through, given what Kane sacrificed by donating bone marrow, given how close Malcolm came to the worst possible outcome, is completely understandable. The gratitude in that relationship is real, and the show is going to have to figure out what to do with that emotional bond going forward. Because Kane is now running chancellor for Lily, Malcolm is back on his feet largely because of what Kane did, and the emotional weight of all of that is sitting right in the middle of several relationships simultaneously. There is a lot of story potential here, and we will see how the writers choose to use it. That is your full Y&R spoilers breakdown for the week of June 8th through the 12th. Make sure you check back tomorrow for our detailed weekly spoilers video with extended predictions, 2-week look-ahead spoilers, and so much more. There is a lot coming in Genoa City, and we're going to cover every single bit of it. Thank you so much for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast because you genuinely do not want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio,